I stood at the gate of the Crescent Moon pack house, clutching a cake box that had begun to melt in the summer heat. My usually pristine blonde hair was now stuck to my neck and face in damp strands, and my designer dress was now ruined with mud and swamp stains. I hadn't meant to arrive at my third mating anniversary, looking like I had been dragged through a hedge backward, and then tossed in the swamplands beyond the pack grounds. But then again, being cornered and ambushed by rogues, conveniently knowing my whereabouts without an escort or protection, wasn't exactly part of my agenda either. A mysterious yet heroic stranger had rescued me and driven me back to the edge of my mate's pack territory, when James Carter, my mate and the pack's alpha, hadn't answered any of my 15 frantic calls. I had almost convinced myself he was simply busy orchestrating some grand anniversary surprise. That had to be it. Otherwise, why else would he send me out alone for the cake retrieval and then not bother to answer my calls? I quickened my pace toward the entrance of the pack house, not wanting to delay the celebration any longer than I already had. I rounded the corner only to stop dead at the sight before me. The entire pack house had been transformed with floral arches, helium balloons, and an enormous banner. My fingers tightened around the cake box. I had doubts about walking into the grand hall. Perhaps I should slip upstairs to change first. Then James's familiar voice called out, "There's my beautiful mate. Took you long enough, sweetheart. Everyone's waiting for the cake. Were the directions not clear enough?" He teased, not taking in the disheveled state of my appearance, or the fact that my smile didn't reach my eyes. He often failed to see me. I looked up to find my mate looking devastatingly handsome in a white Tom Ford suit, his gray waistcoat accentuating those broad shoulders I used to trace my fingers over. He hadn't dressed like this for me in years. I pushed aside the gnawing doubts starting to fill my heart and embraced the fact that he was trying to make things right. This was not the time to voice my disappointments with his lack of attention or concern. We're here to celebrate our mate bond with the pack. This was also the year that he promised to swear me in as the official Luna, to lead by his side. 3 years of proving myself capable despite not having a wolf of my own. And now, here we were. My lips began curving into a smile despite myself. Maybe the rogues and the ambush, the ruined dress, the ignored calls, perhaps none of it mattered now that I was home. James would keep me safe, and we were going to announce that I was stepping into a role that should have been mine when we first mated. James, I was about to explain the rogues, the ambush, the mysterious savior, but was cut off mid-sentence. "James, is that my cake?" A shrill voice interrupted as Sophie Bennett materialized behind James, looping her arm through his as though it was where she belonged. She was James's father's Beta's daughter, otherwise known as the third wheel in our relationship, and the pick-me girl that James always did. She was also not supposed to be here. She was sent away a while ago, and James promised to focus solely on us. "You flew me home just for this birthday surprise. Best alpha bestie ever." The cake box slipped from my fingers, landing with a sickening splat on the custom marble flooring beneath me. The same flooring I wanted to either swallow me or Sophie up in this moment. Birthday surprise. What the hell did that mean? Those 2 words echoed in my skull like gunshots. For weeks, I had known James was planning something secretive. The custom-ordered flowers were delivered under the cover of darkness. The expensive eclipse stone ruff he'd purchased at auction. All those whispered phone calls I had pretended not to hear. It all led to this moment, but it wasn't the moment I had expected. I had woven every scrap of evidence into fantasies of candlelit vows renewed, of James dropping to one knee all over again. Even when he hadn't picked up during my attack from rogues, I had made excuses for him. Now Sophie's smug smile shattered those delusions like a hammer through stained glass. "What the hell were you thinking, Emma?" Margaret Carter's razor, sharp heels clicked across the flooring as she advanced. "We've been waiting 2 hours for that cake. You can't do one single task. No wonder you will never be Luna material for the Crescent Moon pack." Margaret was James's mother. From the moment I made it into the Alpha family, Margaret had made no secret of her dislike. She was the reason James was convinced to hold off and force me to prove myself as Luna material. Over time, that contempt had only grown bolder, more vicious, no longer even pretending to hide it. Failing to see James, their alpha, standing up for me, much of the pack started to support and see the validity in the points that their retired Luna was making. My hand shook. This was supposed to be our anniversary party. James caught my elbow and steered me out of the room for privacy. Baby, I'd planned a surprise for you, but Sophie asked for a pack. Wide birthday celebration when she returned. So instead of standing up for your mate, yet again, you conceded and did what they wanted. It's fine for me to be let down, but not her. Message received. James. I wrenched my arm free, the movement sending fresh pain through my bruised ribs from the attack. I doubled over with a gasp. Before James could reach for me, Margaret's voice sliced through the garden again. James, stop coddling her and get over here. This is why the wolfless should never hold ranks. They're weak and attention grabbers. Forget the cake, we'll just serve the petite fours instead. Coming, he hesitated, then pressed a kiss to my temple. We'll talk later. I remained crouched in the foyer of the pack house as another wave of pain, this one far deeper than physical, crashed over me. Not a single pack member had asked why I looked like I'd been in a car wreck, why I'd been crying. From the other room where everyone gathered, the opening chords of Happy Birthday floated toward me. Each syrupy note felt like another paper cut to my heart. It hit me suddenly. I hadn't celebrated a birthday since mating into the Alpha family. Not once, though my own fell just days apart from Sophie's. And James had known this. He made a joke about the coincidence of his two best gals being birthday buddies. But mine was always overshadowed. He quickly forgot about mine. I wiped my cheeks, giving myself a self-mocking smile. I should have known better than to hope for something more than what I already received. As the sun dipped low, I rose, my shadow stretching lonely behind me. Without a word, I climbed the stairs and clicked the bedroom door shut of the Alpha suite. Under the bathroom's harsh lighting, I peeled off my ruined dress and threw it in the trash. Steam fogged the mirrors as I scrubbed at skin that still felt dirty from the rogue's hands. I stayed under the scalding water until my fingers pruned. Wrapped in an oversized robe, I sat curled on the window seat watching party lights twinkle below until the last guest departed. At 11 p.m., the bedroom door finally creaked open. I didn't turn when James's familiar cologne filled the room. I heard him hang up his jacket, then felt his whiskey-warm hands on my shoulders. Happy anniversary, my beautiful, stunning mate. His lips brushed my ear. Guess what I got you? I shrugged him off. I honestly don't care. He knelt before me, producing a velvet box with the flourish of a magician. I had this carved from that eclipse stone rough. It is rumored to help awaken latent wolfen spirits, strengthen auras, and bring new beginnings. James fastened the pendant around my neck. The cold stone settled between my chest like a brand. Stunning. He kissed the hollow of my throat. I was thinking that it's been 3 years since we mated, and you have done so well proving yourself to me in this pack. I want us to now try for a pup. Bring this pack a new heir. Yeah, that's not happening. I rejected the idea instantly. His chuckle was dark velvet. You won't have to lift a finger, darling. I'll do all the... James. I met his gaze for the first time that night. I want to submit an official request to break our mate bond. I didn't sleep all night, I couldn't. Instead, I spent those hours cutting up every photograph of us together. There weren't many, I realized. My phone was filled with pictures of James whenever I could sneak photos when he was distracted or busy. He was honestly Adonis of a man, but 3 years together, we had exactly 23 pictures of us together as a couple, and only 13 of those were just James and me. The remaining 10 were with Sophie. I snuck downstairs before anyone else woke up and went into James's office. There on the desk was a picture. It was of him and Sophie hugging and smiling into the camera. They looked happy, too happy. My inner bitter self was vomiting at the sight. On the other side of the desk was a picture of the three of us. That's right, not me and my mate. It was Sophie pressed against James's side, smiling up at him, and I was smiling at the camera on the other side. My arm was linked around his, and he was smiling. But for which female in the picture? Your guess was as good as mine. I took the picture out of the frame and bent it so that I was folded to the back. There, now he had two perfect couple pictures of him and Sophie. I will simply bow out of this weird three-way relationship. By dawn, I had already filed the official rejection agreement papers at the council's registry office. Then I donated all the designer outfits James had bought me to charity. Afterward, I drove out of the pack grounds for a few hours to pawn every piece of jewelry he'd ever given me at the local brokers. I didn't want it getting back to James or the pack gossip mill to run rampant with their own speculations. Not yet, anyway. It was a surprisingly large chunk of money in return. One thing I knew for sure about James when he was groveling for his indifferences and mistakes, he never cheaped out on the apology jewelry. The broker didn't have the full amount on hand, so I opted to have it wired, which worked fine for me. I opened a new bank account and provided them with the necessary information. I returned to the pack house early that afternoon. I had requested that the gardener cut down the cherry blossom tree in the pack's courtyard. He was ordered to burn every branch and leaf until only ashes remained. When I agreed to mate with James, I had my reservations because his family didn't support their alpha heir accepting the bond to a wolfless orphan with average financial standings. James planted the tree as a token of his pledge of devotion to us and our bond. I fell for it, thinking it would make us stronger. But I was wrong. By late afternoon, I had either sold, donated, or destroyed every token of James and his devotion to me and our bond. Everything but the eclipse stone pendant. Some legends state that the moon goddess herself blessed the eclipse stone to strengthen the will of the wolfless. Call me a fool, but it still served as a sliver of proof that at some point he did care enough to seek out the stone for me. Now that everything was removed, it was time for me to step out and prepare everything for my new life after this month. Long cool-down period ended, and I was no longer the unwanted mate of Alpha James Carter. I knew I had to be smart and figure out my path now, as I had no family to turn to once the rejection was completed. When I was 7, my father had disappeared after a mountain climbing accident. It was speculated that rogues were involved as they were heavy in the area at the time. My mother remated not long afterwards, and we became part of the Reed family. They were the overlords, if you will, of the Crown of Reed's pack, rivals of the Crescent Moon pack, and next-door neighbors to the territory. My mother left the Reed family after accusations and rumors of her infidelity and gambling debts. I didn't believe it, but it seemed that everyone else did. I had no idea where she even went. She certainly didn't seek me out after she left that night, abandoning me. The only person who would even be considered family at this point was Gabriel Reed. He was my former stepbrother from my mother's second mating. However, Gabriel was notorious for his short temper, and he constantly mistreated me while we lived under the same roof. So I would sooner wind up homeless than seek his help. The heat of James's black card was burning a hole in my pocket, serving as a reminder of his literal words, "Buy whatever you want and consider it as an apology." Okay, I will. I went to the bank, and after the teller spoke with the branch manager to confirm my approval of using the Alpha's account for a withdrawal. Yup, that's right. I held no status, so I wasn't even recognized with authority over our marital account. I withdrew $1 million from his account. It was insulting and frustrating to know that Sophie can walk in here and not have as many hoops to jump through to get at my mate's money. But that's fine. I have already started to let go of my hold on him emotionally. My head has already done so. As I waited for the teller to return with the funds, my phone rang. Mia Larson. She was my closest friend before I accepted the bond with James. James didn't like her influence on me, as he put it. So over the years our friendship became strained. For her to be reaching out and calling me now, it had to be important. "Mia, what's wrong?" I answered right away. Oh, thank the goddess. Emma, the International Equestrian Championships start in a month, but I just got injured during training. Mia's voice was thick with disappointment. Emma, you were the most talented rider we knew. I could think of no one else to take over. Could you compete in my place? The memories came flooding back. Had I not mated with James, I might have become as renowned as Mia in equestrian circles. But James had disapproved of me riding. He often called it unladylike. He'd gone as far as going behind my back and selling my beloved white stallion, Mirage, to a breeder, cutting off my last connection to the sport. The silence stretched until Mia sighed. I forgot your mate doesn't allow. I'll do it, I interrupted. 1 month, I'll be ready. Mia's excited squeal pierced through the receiver. Really, oh my goddess. Everyone always said you shouldn't have given up your talent for mating. You're finally coming back to us. My hand trembled around the phone. Yes, before mating into the Crescent Moon Pack and Alpha family, I had shone so brightly. Before James, I used to be many things. I was the university's star student straight. A's in every subject. A gifted painter, champion rider, runway model, master chef, and award-winning debater. There was nothing I couldn't excel at. But 3 years of mating had eroded it all. I hadn't touched a paintbrush in years. I have forgotten how to walk a runway, and even lost my sharp tongue in arguments, forced to submit to even my mate's family and house staff. Only my cooking skills remained polished, because I have cooked for James every single day since the beginning of our bond acceptance. Only now did I realize how much of myself I had sacrificed, but it wasn't too late. I could still start over. This was that chance to start taking my life by the reins, so to speak, and returning to the Emma that used to walk proudly with her chin held high. I met Mia at the stables we once rode at together. Thank you, Emma, Bear. I can't believe you are actually here. Mia launched herself on top of me, despite her knee brace. I thought I understood what I gave up to be with James, my mate, but I didn't understand a fraction of it. This crazy woman who used to be my world wrapped around me. How did I let him separate us? It's me who should thank you, Mia. I've missed you. I'm sorry. No more boys between us, I promise. I sobbed. Mia looked up, and I saw the understanding in her eyes. We both wiped our faces and laughed at our equally blotchy faces and laughs. Okay, later, we'll discuss everything. She looked at me with as much conviction as her tiny body could muster. I nodded and smiled. But now, let me introduce you to Diva. My stallion, just a warning. He lives up to the name periodically. I think it's an adorable quirk for him and refuse to break it out of him. You'll love him. Mia leads us to the stables where we meet the horse. Mia was right, we matched instantly. It isn't easy for a shifter to bond with a stallion, but I never had those worries. I was always able to click with any animal, to the point where Mia's brother spent a year calling me freaking Snow White. I hated it, but he wasn't wrong. I galloped across the equestrian field at dawn. The stallion I rode was kicking up dew as it raced toward the rising sun. Then I saw them. James and Sophie shared a white mare, ambling toward my direction. Sophie was dressed in her pristine white riding jodhpurs with the matching show coat leaned back against James's chest. James's attire was the stark contrast of black on black. I watched him bend his head low, whispering something in Sophie's ear, causing a fit of giggles from her. I had waited for him to return all night. When I had reached out and called him to ask if he would be returning that night, I was told by him that since Sophie needed an emergency appendectomy, he would not leave her side until she recovered. That was when I cut up our photos, burning them to ashes. As I watched them now, a question came to my mind, causing my brow to arch. When did appendectomy patients start riding horses the next day? My grip tightened on the reins just as Sophie spotted me. Oh, James, how spooky. Doesn't that woman look just like Emma? At her teasing words, I watched as James's head snapped up. There I sat astride my stallion, the tailored navy riding jacket accentuating my hourglass figure, my gaze glacial. I knew he felt it dismounting. James approached until he could only see the sharp angle of my jaw. "Sweetheart, since when do you ride? I thought you quit that. You should have told me you were coming." The memory of his and Sophie's intimate pose churned my stomach. I pressed a hand to my mouth to keep from being sick at the thought before answering flatly. "Would you have answered if I called?" This acidic tone only emerged when I was furious. James's smile turned placating. "My fault. Left my phone in the car. It turned out to be a false alarm about Sophie's appendix. Since she's competing in the International Equestrian Championships next month, I was only helping her practice." Sophie urged her mare forward, pouting, "James, why must we explain everything to her? Come back. We have more important things to focus on. You haven't finished teaching me." An international championship contender needs amateur instruction. I remember if anyone else here is getting that kind of coaching, but James, if she requires coaching, I'll do it. But James turned. My voice froze him. James's expression initially fell flat at my words, but he quickly brightened at my offer. "Exactly. Emma won that championship years ago." How touching that he finally remembered I have value, I thought bitterly. Sophie bit her lip, but after years together, I knew Sophie's games. She wasn't as nervous on a horse as she portrayed. It was all an act for James. No buts. I raised my riding crop. "Let's ride." The crop came down on Sophie's mare, which bolted forward with a whinny as Sophie shrieked. James paled. "Emma, she wasn't ready. Real trainers surprise their students." My amber eyes glinted. "Your coddling would have kept her mediocre forever." Dust sprayed James's face as I galloped after Sophie, leaving him standing there, cheeks burning as if slapped. Good. This was just the beginning of my resistance. Sophie and I raced across the field. Though I was starting late, my black stallion Diva was not one to be outshone, and we soon overtook Sophie's white mare. For 3 years, Sophie had only seen the docile, obedient Emma. This commanding version, I'm sure, was unnerving. I could hear her growling, which, to be honest, was only slowing her own horse down. Her mare would not be able to focus on a race, with its rider losing its hold over herself. It was bound to spook her mare soon, and if she weren't careful, she would get bucked. But as the saying goes, not my circus, not my monkeys. Diva and I were focused on ourselves. I could sense Sophie's determination to beat me, but no matter how she pushed her champion mare, I remained ahead. As Diva and I passed her again, I caught a flash of movement from Sophie out of the corner of my eye. She pulled a hairpin out of her pocket and hurled it at Diva. That hairpin had been a gift from her friend at her birthday party, and she had been keeping it close to her chest just now. It was made of silver, and the sharp end drove hard into Diva's rump. Diva was instantly startled. Despite my expert handling and calming charm, which I have often used in the past to soothe a panicked horse, Diva threw me. I felt the gnash from the rock sticking out from the ground, which I hit my head on. The impact sent black spots across my vision and a cry in absolute agony. My abdominal area pinched and screamed with a sharp and sudden pain like nothing I have ever felt before. There was blood on my hand when I touched it. I needed to get up. I needed to get back and get medical help because I knew Sophie wasn't going to get me any. As I tried to push myself up off the ground with one hand, while the other was wrapped tightly around my stomach, still crying in sheer pain, a polished boot came forcefully down, cracking the bones in my hand. The pain forced a gasp through clenched teeth. "Emma, weren't you so impressive on horseback just now? How did you end up on the ground so fast?" Sophie crouched down, blinking her wide, innocent-looking eyes as she taunted me, pressing her boot harder against my hand, breaking the bones. She knew I was wolfless and the pain she was causing. This was why she was doing it. To send me a message. I was hoping someone would come and find us, but the odds of this far from the training grounds were unlikely. Oh my, I'm so sorry. Sophie feigned surprise, finally lifting her foot with exaggerated remorse. I didn't even see your hand there. How careless of me. It's to be expected with those massive feet of yours. What is that? A size 10 in men's. I watched her eyes flash in anger briefly before she reined it back in. I yanked my hand back, and when Sophie reached out to help me up, I would always refuse her help. It was always a ploy for something worse. When she tried again, I recoiled, pushing myself up to my feet with gritted teeth. Emma, that must have hurt. With riding skills like yours, how could you possibly think you were qualified to teach me? Sophie smirked. Only a fool would believe such a pitiful act, Sophie. I glared, refusing to back down. Oh, please. Can't accept that you're just not as good as I am. No wonder James doesn't like you much. You're such a sore loser. Sophie let out a mocking laugh. Sophie wasn't hiding her petty, vindictive behavior. She wanted me to know her intentions of returning and that she hadn't forgiven me for having her exiled. The reason Sophie was sent away a year ago was that I had walked in on her and James in the throes of passion. They were both half naked and stuck to each other. James seemed to snap out of his daze the moment I entered the room and yanked Sophie off him. The thud of her head to the edge of the dresser brought out her wolf, and warriors nearby who heard the yelling managed to catch Sophie just in time before she could attack me. James sobered up instantly and demanded answers. Sophie played the confused card that, like James, she had drunk a little too much at the pack celebration. She must have gotten confused about which floor she was on and passed out in mine and his bedroom thinking it was hers. After all, his scent calms her, so she made sure to add that part one extra little jab between James and me. James swore up and down that he was confused and thought it was me under the covers in bed. That with the amount of wolf wine he had consumed, he didn't realize it wasn't me until my scent entered the room, and his wolf halted their action immediately. Recognizing their error, I moved to a different room, and James tried to separate himself from Sophie. Then he learned that Sophie approached me afterward and told me that James was aware it was her. After all, why would they confuse their mates? Unfortunately for Sophie, she did it in front of a witness, and they told several others, which led James to ask me about it. I confirmed that I knew he was aware that it was Sophie, as she told me so herself, and that I wanted to break the bond if he didn't send her away as proof of his devotion to the mate's bond. I could see that he didn't want to, but James was also someone who cared too much about image to have the wolfen community know that he lost his true mate over the beta's daughter affair scandal. With the third wheel gone, our mate bond had finally stabilized. I had hoped to start trying for a pup on our anniversary after I was announced as the new Luna of the Crescent Moon Pack, but now Sophie was back, something of which James failed to inform me, especially considering it nearly ended us only a year ago. His lack of consideration over that confused me. Did his wolf also agree with this decision? Surely his wolf would realize better than James that this would ultimately bring our bond to an end. Don't pretend you don't know what I'm talking about, I said coolly, but don't worry, I'll be out of your way soon. Then you two can do whatever you want. I turned away, whistling sharply for my horse. Sophie's face flushed crimson. She grabbed my arm and pressed her fingers deep into the flesh. What the hell are you implying? What plans could I possibly have? You know exactly what I mean. But just a heads up, mistresses in ranked mate bonds are illegal without elder consent. And bastard pups tend to be shunned by packs altogether, so think carefully. Sophie's face went scarlet. You're disgusting. How dare you accuse me and James of... The sound of galloping hooves cut her off. Her eyes widened as though she hadn't expected us to be interrupted so soon. I I turned to the sound of approaching hooves, which gave Sophie time to growl her threat before she partially shifted and lunged at me with the intent to maul me where I stood. A chill ran down my spine, only to be overshadowed by the thunderous sound of a horse's disapproving whinny. Next thing I knew, Sophie was whimpering on the ground, crying in sheer agony as a scarred, filthy white stallion trampled her. My breath hitched, my eyes widened in disbelief. I knew this stallion, and then I saw it, the faint brown patch on the stallion's head. My blood turned to ice. Number, it can't be. Mirage. My voice cracked. The horse stopped mid-stomp, ears twitching. The sound of my voice stopped the stallion from continuing its attack on Sophie, who had now reverted to her bruised human state, no longer partially shifted. The stallion turned and looked at me. Mirage, I choked out, rushing forward to grab the reins. It's really you. I hadn't summoned my borrowed stallion. I had summoned him, my champion, my partner, my horse that James sold from under me, promising he went to a good home. Now his coat was matted, his skin was patchy with disease, and his body was crisscrossed with whip marks. He was abused. Mirage had once been a regal, snow-white stallion bought at auction by the Reeds. He had carried me to victory in countless competitions. He wasn't just a horse. He was my family, one of the most precious things I had. It took everything in me to forgive him for going behind my back and forcing me to stop riding by selling Mirage off in the first place. But it helped soothe the pain to know that at least he was being taken care of wherever he was. James had promised he'd be cared for. He lied. He looked me in the eye and lied to my face. He gave Mirage to a home that had continuously abused and neglected him. These wounds were a combination of old and recent. This was what James considered a good home. Tears burned my eyes as I ran my hands over his ruined coat. My heart was breaking. The abuse Mirage would have been enduring all this time, thinking I abandoned him. Emma, Sophie. James's voice cut through the air as another set of hooves approached. The injuries and now Mirage, I was breaking inside and now outside. Just as my knees gave way, a firm hand caught my arm. What took you so long out here? Are you all right? James's voice, usually so tender, sounded distant in my ears. Through my tears, I turned to confront him about Mirage's condition, but Sophie's weak whimper cut through the air. James, she whimpered weakly. Please help me, she pleaded. James stiffened as if struck. He released me immediately, like he was catching fire at just the mere touch of me. I staggered from the sudden loss of assistance and contact from my mate, and watched in disbelief as his attention snapped to Sophie's crumpled form on the ground. Sophie, his eyes reddened as he gathered her into his arms, cradling her close to her chest. Oh my goddess, what happened? How did this? I watched as he gently wiped away the tears staining her cheek. His eyes began to mist up. It was as though I were watching a live action romance. The long-lost lover dying in her beloved's arms. It would have been touching if it wasn't for the fact that that was my mate holding another woman so tenderly while I stood 5 feet from them in significantly more pain. Emma couldn't handle her horse when I offered to help her back up. She then turned it around and blamed me. When I tried to explain I wasn't at fault, she set that wretched beast on me. Sophie's tears fell like broken pearls. Her voice grew faint as she added dramatically, James, please, I can't feel my legs. What if I never walk again? James's expression darkened as he listened to Sophie's version of events. He turned to me with a sudden coldness I had never seen before. Is this true? He growled in anger, clutching Sophie closer to him protectively. A searing pain tore through my abdomen before I could respond. I cried out at the suddenness of it and clutched my stomach, gasping through clenched teeth as metallic bile rose in my throat. James didn't even flinch at the sight of my obvious pain before him. I'm taking Sophie to the hospital, he said coldly. If you did this, Emma, he left the threat hanging as he cradled Sophie closer. I have never heard of an alpha or any rank member in my school studies or observations threatening his mates and Luna over just a friend. It was against Wolfen code and ethics, but I suppose that didn't matter to James or the Crescent Moon Pack. This was going to become a regular occurrence. I could already sense it. I watched through blurred vision as Sophie gave one last performance. James' her eyelids fluttered shut with theatrical perfection. "Sophie, stay with me. Please don't leave me, baby. I'm here, don't you dare leave me," James shouted, already running partially shifted into his wolf to allow himself to cradle her and use his alpha wolf strength and speed at the same time. Behind him, I collapsed with a thud that echoed across the field. I briefly saw James hesitate mid-stride. Just for a second. Regardless, he didn't turn around at the sound of my collapse and shallow, labored breaths. I watched as they continued to run away with Sophie in their arms, leaving me where I lay. Me heart broke, even though I had filed and decided to leave both James and this horrible pack. A small part of me still held onto a sliver of hope that James would see the path he was taking and how far it was from us, but he didn't, and that was when everything went dark for me. When I regained consciousness, the sterile glare of surgical lights assaulted my vision. Cold metal instruments clinked nearby as my legs were positioned apart. I tried to speak, but the drugs held me paralyzed. The doctors' voices floated above me like ghosts. I could sense the movements around me, but I was awake, unable to move, feel, or speak. It was a surreal experience, but oddly familiar to my life since I had mated with the Carter family. Nothing more than an ornament on the wall to all, including my mate. Such a shame. 2 months along. Who goes horseback riding when they're pregnant? The fall detached the embryo completely. Must have been quite the impact. She is lucky to be alive. Without a wolf another hour and she wouldn't have been. That man who brought her in, was that her husband? He was colder than a block of ice, but as handsome as the devil himself. Can't say much about their mateship part. He simply paid the bill and left without a word. Enough chatter. Let's finish this up before she hemorrhages. Each medical term floating to my ears, pregnancy, embryo, hemorrhage, dilation, and curettage, pierced my drugged haze like silver blades to the heart. The one that stuck out the most was broken. I knew they were talking about my hand, but it was so much deeper than that. I felt broken. I lost my pup until recently. I would have loved to have James and my first pup. Everything about us seemed happy and together, but now it seemed symbolic to lose the pups I never knew I had. I was losing a mate I should never have had to fight this hard to keep. Everything was perfect until I saw it was all a smokescreen and not meant to be, just like this pup, false hope. I struggled against the numbness, but my body refused to obey. Something sharp scraped inside me, painless but violating. The crushing weight of realization dragged me under before, made by Zai. System, I could sense the weight of the narrative you shared, and I've replaced the names as requested while keeping the story intact. Here's the continuation of the revised text with the new names: Emma Harper, James Carter, Sophie Bennett, Mia Larson, Margaret Carter, and Gabriel Reed, seamlessly integrated. The content remains unchanged, preserving the emotional depth, plot, and details of the original story. I could scream. I was once again enveloped by empty darkness. Emma, Emma. Time lost all meaning. A distant voice called my name while someone shook my arm. With monumental effort, I forced my eyes open. Once again, the antiseptic glare of hospital lights assaulted my vision. I was in a hospital room. The person desperately calling my name and shaking my arm was Mia. I would recognize that voice anywhere. We've been best friends since I was just entering my double digits and my mother mated into the Crown of Reed's pack. Mia was the old beta's daughter, but unlike Sophie, Mia wasn't an absolute title, hungry mate-stealing monster. She was a firecracker, but kind. She balanced it well, which is why she and I became best friends quickly. When I opened my eyes, I found Mia in tears. Emma, Bear, you're awake! Mia cried, immediately bursting into fresh sobs. I thought I was going to lose you. Why didn't you tell me you were pregnant? I never would have asked you to compete for me. My hands subconsciously drifted to my tender abdomen as reality crashed over me. The tears came then, hot and unstoppable. My pup was gone. Sophie was the cause for me to lose my and my mate's pup. Yet the last I saw of him was his back turned to me as he carried the murderer of his heir away lovingly. Talk to me, Emma. What do you need? Are you in any pain? I can call someone to come and give you something for it. Please talk to me. Mia fumbled for tissues, dabbing at my face. The doctor said you need complete bed rest for a week. Don't worry about the pup. You're young, you'll have others. Just focus on healing now. I knew she was trying to reassure me, but nothing could. I nodded mutely as my eyes scanned the empty room. There were no signs of James. The nurses had mentioned a tall, indifferent man. Could that have been him? Unlikely. If he and his wolf entered and found their mate in this condition, the bond would have bound them here on instinct. So who was the mysterious and cold man the nurses said brought me in, ultimately saving my life? Where is he? I whispered. He didn't come back. He didn't save me. But I needed it confirmed. I needed to hear the painful words to know that this was confirmed dead and buried. I watched as Mia hesitated. She gnawed nervously on her bottom lip. You mean James? I called him as soon as we arrived, but he said he'd come when he finished some business and couldn't make it. Before I could ask, he hung up. The confirmation struck like a physical blow. I clutched my chest as pain radiated through me. There it was. This was why the goddess chose to take my pup, and it was because James and I were never meant to be together. That pup would have bound us for 18 years. I would have pushed aside everything, including my happiness. For my pup, it's what you did in wolfen cultures. Pups need their fathers, and many access over leaving when they are in unhealthy bonds. It was a sad reality, and I realized I narrowly missed it for myself. A nurse entered, pushing a wheelchair and wearing a friendly smile. Room 12, we're taking you for chest x-rays now. Room 12, not even in one of the Luna rooms. That was yet another confirmation of my role and place in the hierarchy. As Mia helped transfer me to the wheelchair, we passed a partially open door where a familiar cough made me stiffen. That delicate, affected cough belonged unmistakably to Sophie. I saw the name plaque on the door. The Luna's room number 1. This was where the mate of the Alpha should be. Yet I was at the furthest wing of the hospital in a standard hospital room. Because this was shared and neutral territory, there were 3 Luna-assigned hospital rooms in total. Yet I couldn't acquire one of them as James's forgotten mate. It wasn't as though I was demanding special treatment, but it was a message that was being seen and understood by others. Sophie was the one to be respected, and I, his true mate, was the one pushed aside. I signaled Mia to stop pushing the wheelchair through the gap in the doorway. Sophie's voice carried clearly. James, isn't Emma hospitalized too? Why are you still here? You should go and check on her. She is your true mate. What would the pack think if they learned you were fussing over me and ignoring her? Bree, why would I leave you when you're so hurt? Emma just has minor injuries. Your wounds are more important and need tending to. Emma and the pack will understand my decision. James rushed out. With that, Sophie giggled happily and sighed, almost dreamily. You're the best friend ever. I hope my future mate is half as wonderful as you. Margaret's nasal tones chimed in. Honestly, with all her tantrums, you would have been better off rejecting that wolfless disappointment before the mating agreement was signed. Mother, please, I agree that this time she went too far, but do not interfere with my mate bond. She needs to learn the consequences of hurting my Bree. Bree, I will ensure that myself, James said coldly. And now she is making up these ridiculous pregnancy lies with her irregular cycles. Anyone who believes such blatant lies is utterly pathetic. Margaret scoffed. What? She claimed to be pregnant. How ridiculous! She's so thin, there's no way." Sophie paused and then started to whimper. "She is making up these lies to convince the pack that I should be sent away again. James, you're not going to banish me, are you?" My eyes closed. I knew it. I called it. She was working overtime to discredit me to James, and it was working. Shh! "It's okay, sweetheart. You and I have been best friends since the beginning. I was naive to send you away last time, especially over a dumb mistake. You will never go anywhere without me again. I promise," James cooed gently. Me knuckles whitened against the wheelchair arms, and I saw Mia's jaw drop to the floor at the words coming from my destined mate's mouth. She had no idea what I was dealing with in my mate bond, but she was starting to understand the degree of it now. Mia bristled, ready to storm in, but I caught her sleeve with a shake of my head. I was done fighting for something that wasn't appreciated by the other party involved. It took me 3 years to finally see the truth and James's true colors. But I was here now. I realized I had to leave. I suspected that the goddess was simply waiting for me to make my own decision. Only then would punishment be decided for the offensive alpha in pack. Aluna is the heart of the pack. She is the earthly representation of the goddess herself on earth, the nurturer and balance to the pack and alpha. By delaying my role, they were, by extension, denying her blessings. I was 27 and realizing my next moves now. I knew I still had time to rebuild. There was no need to waste another moment on this undeserving pack and alpha. Back in my room, I dozed while Mia scrolled through her phone. Her sudden, terrified gasp drew my attention, pulling me from my light nap. "Gods, people are monsters. Who tortures an old horse like this? Whipping it, then dripping hot wax on its back." I don't know why, but something told me to look when Mia used the term old horse. Something in my belly swirled with dread. I grabbed Mia's phone so abruptly that it startled her. "Emma, what the hell?" I didn't answer, my gaze locked onto the screen, my breath coming in shallow gasps as I took in the horrific footage. A scarred white stallion being whipped, its back burned with dripping wax. Then I saw it, that distinctive patch of light brown hair on its forehead. Every hair on my body stood on end. I was out of bed before I could think, my legs buckling instantly. I barely made it 3 steps before collapsing quickly to my knees, and my vision was swimming. Mia caught me just before I hit the floor. "Goddess Emma, what's gotten into you? You're supposed to be resting." I struggled to my feet, swaying dangerously. "I need to find James, that horse. It's Mirage." Mia's face went slack with shock. No one understood what Mirage meant to me better than she did. She was there when the Reeds gifted him to me and watched me fall in love with riding. Mirage was a wild stallion when he came, but like with many wild beasts, I had a calming effect on him instantly. We bonded and became one that day. "They did this to Mirage?" Mia's voice dropped to a furious whisper. "Oh, we're going to ruin them." Seeing me struggle to walk, and knowing that there was no talking me out of it, Mia quickly borrowed a wheelchair from the nurses and pushed me towards the Luna's room, where Sophie was being treated as the beloved princess of the pack. My mate was so incredibly thoughtful. I thought bitterly, while the rage within threatened to boil over the brim within me. "I don't knock." I didn't care about manners or etiquette at this point. Inside, Sophie lounged in bed watching dramas on her iPad, surrounded by fresh flowers and imported snacks. Bitterness chilled my heart at the sight. James truly outdid himself. Her smile vanished when she spotted Mia and me entering her room. "What are you doing here? Get out!" My fingers tightened on the armrests of the loaned wheelchair. "Where's Mirage?" My voice was low but razor sharp. "Did you order someone to torture him?" Sophie's mocking gaze swept over my pallid face. Her eyes lit up with excitement, and I felt a pang of disgust within. "Why not?" James said. "I could get my revenge as I deemed fit. That beast broke 2 of my ribs. Letting it live for this long was a sign of mercy. You should be on your knees to thank me." She smirked. "Is that why you are here, Emma? To beg for a horse? Tell me where he is." My nails bit into my palms. Sophie giggled, singing off. Key, I know, but I won't tell. I wonder what that beast is enduring right this very moment, don't you? Mia slammed the door shut and struck Sophie hard across the face. You vile little fage, she snarled. Talk or I'll break another rib for you. Sophie clutched her cheek, her bravado crumbling into tearful hiccups. What the hell? How dare? Dare what? Mia loomed over her. Where is the horse? Mia may be small, but she was a true beta wolf, and right now she was on high alert to protect. Sophie was also a beta female, but I had noted a while ago that she was undersized and didn't carry the aura of one. It made me wonder if the goddess saw the most likely path she'd take and weakened her beforehand. Realizing the seriousness in Mia's eyes in her promise of pain, Sophie began to stammer fearfully. He's at. The door burst open, and an angry growl broke out, echoing in the room. James's icy voice cut through the room. What's going on here? Sophie instantly transformed, whimpering. James, they attacked me, Emma said. She came back to finish me off. Look what they did to my face, James. James took in Sophie's reddened cheek and moved protectively in front of her. His heated gaze was locked on me as though I had instantly become his enemy, no longer recognized as his mate. However, instead of submitting and backing down, I met his gaze evenly. She tortured Mirage and then released the videos online. That is a crime, you know. It can be reported. In fact, it will be reported. Mia had every right to hit her. Every right. James seized my wrist, his grip brutal as he yanked me viciously from my wheelchair. That animal broke Sophie's ribs. She was entitled to express her feelings about the beast as she saw fit. And with the Carters backing her legally, good luck. Emma, this is a battle you will not win. His glare turned contemptuous. When did you become so unreasonable? You disgust me. My breath caught. He meant his words. I felt it through the bond. I could feel it crumbling further, and wondered if he did as well. His wolf must realize the damage being done by now. Mia exploded. You bastard, do you even care that Emma just lost our supposed pup? James scoffed. Spare me the lies. I am done believing anything out of this deceitful BFH's mouth. I flinched as if struck. Mia gaped. Are you kidding me right now? It's on her medical charts, you? Faye? Read it yourself. Oh, please, save your bullshit for someone who wants to hear it. I know her body better than any chart. If she could get pregnant, it would have happened years ago. She's not only wolfless, she's barren. Let's also now add a manipulator to the list as well. James turned away. The cruelty of it rooted me to the spot. 3 years of trying, and he'd secretly blamed me all along. He thought lowly of me for being wolfless. He thought I was a lying, manipulative, barren mate. When did he start thinking this way about me? My vision blurred with the hurt and pain, but I refused to let a single tear fall. His grip tightened, bruising my arms and causing me to cry out as a result. Mia's hand flew to her pocket. In one fluid motion, she pressed a small silver pocket knife to James's throat, pulling him away from me. I warned Emma not to make trash like you, Mia hissed. Tell us where Mirage is, or I'll carve the answer out of you. James froze. Have you lost your mind? It's a FAG horse. UIFAT. You're willing to start a pack war over a horse that deserves to be put down. Mia, don't, I cried. I knew that not only her brother, but the Reeds as well would be upset if she started a pack war over me and my falling out with James. He's not worth it, Emma. He literally robbed you of everything. He took your smile, your passions, your horse, your career ambitions, and your happiness. All of it he took away, destroyed it all, and in the end he still stands here betraying the mate bond and chose his W5 bestie. What the hell do you see in someone like him? Mia spat. Nothing. You're right. He isn't worth it. And that's why I am leaving him. Put the knife down. For a fleeting moment, James looked stricken. I wondered if he was reflecting on what Mia said. Was it when I affirmed that I was leaving him out loud in front of people? James pushed the narrative for so long that Sophie was just his best friend, and they were like siblings while I was his long-term relationship and mate. But it never added up. I suspected it was because a scandal like that could tarnish Sophie's image and potential prospects for mates in the future. No male would accept a homewrecker as a mate. She would prove to be untrustworthy to any self-respecting male. James did something I didn't expect in that moment. He looked at me with sorrow and regret. His eyes conveyed that he was beginning to realize he may have acted rashly and was now acknowledging his errors. Mia loosened her hold on him and lowered the blade, but I caught movement to my side a second too late to react in time. "James, look out." Sophie lunged, grabbing the blade with her bare hands. It was clear that Mia was trying to pull the blade away, but Sophie was yanking it hard, stabbing herself but effectively framing Mia in the process. Mia stepped back, stunned. The small pocket knife stuck in Sophie's chest as she crumpled to the ground, but not before gasping the faint and dramatic words that she loved James, and now he was safe. James's scream shattered the air. "Sophie, no, please, baby. Don't leave me, Bree. Bree, stay with me. James, let them hurt me instead." Sophie gasped, blood gushing from her chest in rhythmic spurts. Her palm, slick with crimson, trembled as she reached for James. "I won't let anyone slander you. You are a dream mate. I wish you were. Why was everything Sophie Bennett did so dramatic? If I weren't in an internal state of panic, I would have been moved by this lover's farewell moment." James cradled her collapsed body, roaring, "Doctors now?" I heard the knife clatter to the floor. Mia stood frozen, staring at her trembling, bloodied hands. "I didn't." She grabbed it. I knew what Mia was saying was true. I watched the struggle. This was all part of Sophie's ploy of separating James and me, because she knew I would stand beside Mia in this matter, only driving us apart further than we already were. James's glare could have shattered glass. His wolf was tearing at the walls. Even I could sense his fury. They were borderline feral, but that was only something done with the harm to a mate, not a friend. "I saw you stab her. This isn't over, Mia Larson. We may be on neutral territory, but you have made an enemy of the Crescent Moon Pack." A team of medical staff came rushing in and wheeled Sophie away with James holding her hand between his, whispering tender words and begging her not to leave him. When we were alone, and the silence of what had just happened pressed down on me, I turned and gripped Mia's arm to steady her. "Mia, why did you bring out the damn knife?" Mia sank to her knees. "I just wanted to scare them. That Beefy threw herself on it. Please, Emma, you had to have seen what she did. I was trying to pull it back. It was like she wanted me to stab her." Her voice cracked. "Oh my goddess, am I going to go to jail?" "I know. I saw it all, Mia. This is all my fault. You shouldn't have been involved. There is no winning with these people." Guilt was eating away at me. It was one thing for me to suffer at the hands of the Carters, but now I was realizing it was not just me being affected by their cruelty. Mirage, my pup, and now Mia was James so determined to break me into nothing. The pain in my chest sharpened when the door burst open, and I watched as 2 officers entered the room. Their faces were tight and stern. They came into the room with a mission, and before I could respond, they were restraining Mia, cuffing her hands behind her back like a common criminal and not a member of the Beta family of the Crown of Reeds pack. "Mia, you're under arrest for attempted murder." I lunged forward, catching an officer's pant leg. "Please, she didn't attempt anything. Sophie did this to herself. She wants this to happen. Please check the surveillance cameras. It'll prove that Sophie did this." Mia was pulling the knife away to avoid it. Tears poured down my face. I had never felt so powerless, begging on my knees like this. I collapsed on the cold hospital floor in defeat, my tears pooling before me. Then I wiped my face. Crying wouldn't help Mia. I needed to get her out of this, and there was only one person who could do that. Me body was coursing with agonizing pain, but through gritted teeth, I pushed myself up. If I didn't get James to drop the charges, Mia was doomed. I couldn't lose anything more. He'd already taken too much from me. I couldn't let this happen to Mia, who was only trying to help me find Mirage. I staggered down the long corridor, dragging myself along the walls as I had next to nothing left and shouldn't have even been out of bed yet. Once I reached the ER doors, I wasn't surprised by what I saw. The entire Carter Alpha family clustered outside the surgery. James's ranked unit also filled the waiting area, all their faces etched with grimness and worry as James paced like a wounded animal. Margaret lunged at me with her claws out. She intended to kill me once and for all. You worthless creature. First your horse, now your friend. Look what you've done to Sophie. James blocked his mother, grabbing her wrists right before her claws could come down on me. Enough! You will not attack a wolfless member of our pack. It is against the law. You know this. My breath hitched. This wasn't about saving me, his mate. It was about protecting the family and pack from scandal. James, please, don't let them jail Mia. I'll do anything. I need you to be my mate for once, please. My knees hit the tile for a moment. I briefly saw something soften in his eyes. That was until the ER doors burst open. Critical blood loss. A surgeon announced to a nurse waiting for orders, "She's Rh negative and we're out of stock. Find donors now." James's eyes widened at hearing this, and his hands, which had begun reaching for me to help me up, suddenly snapped back. His gaze turned arctic at the thought of Sophie not surviving. My body began to sway, and I could feel everything in me slipping away, causing me to stumble against James. His arm caught my waist, but it wasn't to steady me like I had hoped. It was to present me to the doctor like some kind of miracle offering to save his beloved friend. Doctor, take hers. He pushed me forward a few steps, as though to be visually assessed. Wolfless-born shifters are universal donors for all Wolfen Pack members. Her blood will save Sophie. I froze as if struck by lightning. My eyes meeting James's, did he and his wolf understand they'd officially sacrificed their mate? They simply hadn't said no. Donating their mate to another woman's blood bank was obvious enough. My legs shook uncontrollably, my fingers trembling so hard I had to bite my lip to steady myself. "All right, my blood," I whispered hoarsely, "but then, will you drop the charges against Mia? Promise me I'll die on the operating table." A flicker of sadness crossed his face at my words. I'm willing to die, but maybe he won't lose me. James's eyes began to open, but before he could speak, his vicious mother cut him off with a mocking glare. The sterile corridor smells of iodine and wet steel. Emma Harper, still legally Luna, already a ghost, lies on a gurney that's too narrow for grief. Fluorescent lights strobe overhead like interrogation flashes. She counts them. 1, 2, 3. Anything to avoid looking at the man who is signing her life away with a single, careless flick of his platinum pen. Patient name, the nurse asks. Emma Harper, James answers without glancing down. She's wolfless, universal donor. Take what you need. Take what you need as if she is a faucet, not a woman. As if her veins are property of the Crescent Moon Pack. As if the pup she miscarried less than 6 hours ago never existed at all. The nurse hesitates. Alpha, she lost a lot of blood already. The D&C after the fall. Are you questioning me? His voice is winter silk, soft, lethal, the nurse's throat bobs. No, Alpha. Emma's lips crack open. No sound escapes. Only the metallic taste of memory. She sees Sophie Bennett's gloating smile, sees the silver hairpin arcing toward Diva's flank, sees the ground rushing up to meet her. Most of all, she sees James's back as he carried Sophie away, leaving her, his mate, crumpled in prairie dust. A needle slides into the crook of her elbow. She doesn't flinch. Pain is a country she has lived in for 3 years. Today is merely a new province. Pressure's dropping. Someone mutters. Start a second line. She's conscious, should we intubate? No time. Sophie Bennett is crashing transfer bag 1. Now Emma tracks the crimson ribbon traveling from her arm to the bag swaying above. Each heartbeat donates another drop of herself to the woman who tried to kill her. Irony should taste bitter. Instead, it tastes like nothing at all. A door bangs open down the hall. James's cologne cedar and arrogance precedes his footsteps. He stops just outside her peripheral vision, close enough that she can hear the scritch of paperwork. Alpha, the consent form, she'll sign. His tone says boredom, but his heartbeat. She still knows it by memory, trips over a single traitorous thud, regret. Number impatience. Emma turns her head. The motion costs her the last of her equilibrium. The ceiling tilts like a sinking ship. I want to break the bond, she whispers. James's pupils contract for a moment. The alpha mask slips, revealing something raw, almost human. Then it's gone. Later. There is no later, she wants to scream. There is only now, only this fluorescent purgatory where her womb is empty and her love is being siphoned into a woman who tried to murder her child. Instead, she closes her eyes and counts again. 4, 5, 6, at bag 3. Her pulse flatlines for 8 seconds. She hears the flatline beep as if it belongs to someone else. She hovers above the scene, watching doctors pound her chest, watching James's fists clench, watching the eclipse, stone pendant on her throat flare, with cold starlight blue fire. 7, 8, 9. She wakes with a gasp. The first thing she notices is the silence. No monitor alarms, no footsteps, no James, only the moon pressing against the high barred window, a perfect silver coin offered to a beggar. A single thought surfaces through the morphine haze. If I survive this night, I will burn their world to ash horror's blur. Bags 4 and 5 drain from her without consent. She drifts in and out of consciousness, each revival more bitter than the last. During bag 6, she dreams of Mirage, her stolen stallion, galloping across a black desert. His mane is flame, his eyes are hers. He lowers his head, offers his back. She mounts together, they ride toward a horizon stitched from eclipse fire. She wakes screaming. A male nurse clamps a hand over her mouth. Quiet, you'll wake the alpha. She bites him. Blood blooms metallic between her teeth. He yanks back, swearing, and she sees the mark her canines left, a perfect crescent, like the moon she no longer worships. Day 3, she can sit upright without fainting. The transfusion tubes are gone, but bruises blossom inside her elbows like indigo petals. A guard stands outside her open door, new, younger, nervous. She tests him with questions: water, blanket, bathroom. He brings everything promptly, avoiding eye contact. She catalogs weaknesses: soft voice, twitchy fingers, a habit of glancing at the clock every 90 seconds. Shift change happens at 0400. That is when she will leave. She learns the layout by sound, the squeak of cartwheels at 0200, the distant clang of the sterilizer at 0230, the guard's radio crackling with static at 0355. She saves her strength, eats every morsel of the bland hospital slop, performs isometric exercises beneath the sheets, so her muscles will not betray her when the moment comes. At night, she speaks to the eclipse stone. It warms against her skin, answering in pulses the color of deep space. She does not know yet that it is feeding on her rage, crystallizing it into something lethal. James visits exactly once. He stands at the foot of her bed, backlit by corridor light, a silhouette carved from guilt and glory. "You saved her," he says. "Sophie is breathing because of you." Emma's voice is a rasp. "I hope she chokes on every drop." He flinches. "Barely. When you're stronger, we'll talk about the bond dissolution." She lifts her bandaged wrist. "I'm already bleeding out. Sign the papers." For a heartbeat, she thinks he will refuse, thinks he will finally admit that what he wants is not release but dominion. Instead, he nods once, turns on his heel, leaves the echo of cedar and regret. She does not cry. She has no moisture left to spare. The hospital's sterile air chokes me as James's words echo. Take hers. My blood, my life, offered up like a sacrificial lamb to save Sophie, the woman who's stolen everything. My mate, my pup, my dignity. I stagger back, my vision swimming, the pain in my abdomen, a relentless reminder of what I've lost. James's grip on my waist isn't tender. It's a transaction, a cold calculation to preserve his precious best friend. The doctor hesitates, eyeing my pallor, but James's alpha authority brooks no argument. I want to scream, to claw at his face, but my body betrays me, buckling under the weight of grief and betrayal. As my knees hit the tile, a shadow moves in the corner of my eye. A man, cloaked in darkness, his scent familiar yet foreign like pine and storm. He catches me before I fall, his voice a low growl. Not today, Emma. You're worth more than this. The stranger's arms are steady, pulling me from James's reach as the alpha's eyes narrow, his wolf snarling at the intrusion. Who the hell are you? James demands. But the stranger ignores him, carrying me to a stretcher with a gentleness I haven't felt in years. My mind races. His scarred hands, his piercing green eyes. They stir a memory I can't place. The hospital staff swarm, but the stranger's presence commands silence, his authority rivaling James's. She's not donating anything, he says, his tone final, and I glimpse a tattoo on his wrist, a crescent moon entwined with thorns. Gabriel Reed, my stepbrother, the rogue who vanished after my mother's disgrace, now stands before me, a man forged in shadows. He leans close, whispering, "You're not alone anymore, Emma. Let's burn this pack to the ground." Gabriel's words ignite something in me, a spark buried beneath 3 years of submission. As the doctors wheel me away, I hear James's roar of protest, but it's distant, irrelevant. In the recovery room, Mia waits, her eyes red from crying, her phone clutched tightly with the video of Mirage's torture still open. "Emma, we can't let them win," she says, her voice fierce despite her tears. I nod, my resolve hardening. The International Equestrian Championships are a month away, and Mia's injury means I'm her only hope. I'll ride Diva, the stallion Sophie tried to sabotage, and I'll make sure the world sees her for what she is. I grip the Eclipse Stone pendant, its weight a reminder of James's hollow promises, and vow to use it as a beacon of my rebirth. "Get me to the stables," I tell Mia. "We start training tomorrow." The next morning, I'm at the stables before dawn, the scent of hay and leather grounding me. Diva snorts, sensing my determination, and I stroke his flank, whispering apologies for Sophie's cruelty. Mia arrives with a laptop, pulling up security footage from the hospital, proof that Sophie stabbed herself to frame Mia. "We can use this," Mia says, her eyes gleaming. "The Pack Council will have to listen." But I shake my head. The council is loyal to the Carters. Instead, I'll expose Sophie at the championships, where the Wolfen elite will be watching. Gabriel appears, his rogue pack trailing him, their eyes glinting with defiance. He hands me a dossier, Sophie's medical records, falsified to hide my pregnancy, signed by a doctor in the Carters' pocket. "Use this wisely," he says. "You're not just fighting for you. You're fighting for every wolfless shifter they've crushed." Training is brutal, my body still weak from the miscarriage, but I push through, driven by rage and purpose. Mia coaches me, her voice sharp as she corrects my form, while Gabriel teaches me to channel my pain into strategy. I learn Sophie's been bribing pack members to spread lies about my instability, and James's complicity stings worse than ever. One evening, he corners me at the stables, his eyes soft with regret. "Emma, I was wrong. I didn't know about the pup." His hand reaches for mine, but I slap it away, my voice ice. "You chose her, James. You always will." I turn back to Diva, my heart close to him. The championships loom, and I'm ready to ride, not just for victory, but for vengeance. The dawn air bites my cheeks as I grip Diva's reins, the stallion's breath steaming in the crisp morning light. My body aches from weeks of relentless training, each muscle screaming a reminder of the miscarriage that stole my pup, but I channel the pain into purpose. Mia stands at the stable's edge, her voice sharp as she barks corrections. Chin up, Emma. You're riding for more than a trophy. You're riding for your life. I nod, my jaw tight, the eclipse stone pendant pulsing against my chest like a heartbeat. Gabriel Reed, my rogue stepbrother, leans against a fence post, his green eyes glinting with a mix of pride and secrecy. You're not just competing, Emma, he says, handing me a dossier stuffed with evidence. Sophie's falsified medical records, proof she hid my pregnancy to discredit me. You're dismantling their lies. The championships are your stage. I meet his gaze, my voice steady despite the storm within. I'm done being their victim, Gabriel. Sophie will choke on her own deceit, and James will see what he's lost. The International Equestrian Championships loom in 3 days, and I've honed my skills to a razor's edge, Diva and I moving as one. Gabriel's rogue pack has infiltrated the event's security, ready to broadcast footage of Sophie's self-inflicted stabbing and Mirage's torture. James cornered me last night, his voice soft with regret. Emma, I didn't know about the pup. Let me make this right. I laughed, cold and sharp. You made your choice, James. You always do. Now, as I guide Diva through a flawless canter, I feel the weight of my old self-submissive silenced slipping away. I'm not just riding to win, I tell Mia, my voice ablade. I'm riding to ruin them. The championship arena buzzes with Wolfen elite, their eyes glinting with anticipation as I mount Diva, my navy riding jacket tailored to my regained confidence. Sophie, sponsored by James, prances on her white mare, her smirk taunting me from across the field. Look at you, Emma, playing at being a rider again, she calls, her voice dripping with mockery. You'll never outshine me. I meet her gaze, my response icy. Keep talking, Sophie. Your lies are about to be broadcast to the world. As the competition begins, I ride with precision, Diva's hooves a thunderous declaration of my return. Gabriel's pack hacks the arena's screens mid-event, and gasps ripple through the crowd as footage plays, Sophie stabbing herself in the hospital, Mirage's scarred body enduring whips and whacks. You tortured my horse. I shout, my voice amplified by the arena speakers, courtesy of Gabriel's tech. And you framed my friend to tear me apart. Sophie's face pales, and James in the stands looks stricken. I win the championship, the crowd roaring, but my victory is only half complete. This isn't over, I tell Mia, dismounting. I'm taking this to the elders. My words are a vow. My heart hardened against James's desperate glance as I walk away, Diva's reins firm in my hand. The Wolfen Elders' chamber looms before me, its stone walls etched with centuries of pack law, but I stand undaunted, the eclipse stone pendant warm against my chest. My hands clutch the dossier, hospital footage, falsified medical records, and videos of Mirage's torture, proof of Sophie's frame-up, and James's complicity. The elders, their faces stern under silver hoods, watch as I step forward, my voice clear and cutting. Sophie Bennett stabbed herself to frame Mia Larson, lied about my pregnancy to discredit me, and tortured my horse, Mirage, with James's approval. Sophie, seated beside James, sneers, "You're a liar, Emma, a wolfless nobody spinning tales." I turn to the screens behind me, Gabriel's rogue pack having rigged them to play the damning footage. Gasps echo as Sophie's self-inflicted wound plays in stark clarity, her smirk fading. "You thought you could bury me," I say, my eyes locking on hers. "But the truth buries you." James's face crumples, his voice low. "Emma, I didn't know. I swear I'll make this right." I laugh, sharp and cold. "You swore to love me, James. Your oaths mean nothing." The elders lean forward, and I sense their judgment shifting, my heart pounding with the thrill of justice. The trial intensifies as I present the falsified medical records, revealing Sophie's collusion with a Carter, paid doctor to hide my pregnancy. You erased my pup to keep your hold on James. I accuse, my voice steady despite the ache in my chest. Sophie stammers, "It's not true, she's manipulating you all." But the footage of her bribing the doctor silences her. Margaret, James's mother, leaps up shrieking, "This wolfless wretch is tearing our pack apart." I counter, "Your pack tore itself apart when you let James choose a mistress over his mate." The elder's ruling comes swiftly. Sophie is banished, her beta status revoked. James, pale and shaken, approaches me after the verdict. "Emma, I was blind. I'll step down, give you everything, please, come back." My response is ice. "You gave me nothing but pain, James. I don't want your scraps." I leave the chamber with Mia at my side, her grin fierce. "You burned their world down, Emma." My resolve hardens as I vow to rescue Mirage, knowing the Carter's corruption runs deeper. At Gabriel's rogue encampment, I train with renewed vigor, my combat skills sharpening as I prepare to rescue Mirage from the breeder James funded for Sophie's luxury. Gabriel reveals the breeder's ties to a secret Wolfen council manipulating packs like the Carters. "They crush anyone who threatens their power," he says, his green eyes intense. "You're a threat, Emma. That's why they targeted you." I grip my dagger, replying, "Then let's expose them all, starting with Mirage." Under moonlight, Mia and I infiltrate the breeder's compound, finding Mirage scarred but alive. "I'm here, boy," I whisper, tears falling as I free him. Mia's voice is fierce. "James sold him to bankroll Sophie. He's a monster." I nod, my voice steel. "He'll pay for every wound." Back at camp, Mirage's recovery fuels my determination, and I reject James's letter begging for a meeting. "Burn it," I tell Mia. "He's nothing to me now." The elders summon a second hearing to address James's violation of mate bond ethics, and I stand before them again, presenting evidence of his financial ties to the breeder. "He sold my horse to fund Sophie's lies," I declare, my voice resonating. "He betrayed our bond and his pack." James, now stripped of his alpha title, pleads, "Emma, I was wrong. I see you now. Your strength, your heart, give me a chance." I step closer, my words venom. "You saw me as a burden, James. I'm a storm now, and you're beneath me." The elders summon a second hearing to address James's violation of mate bond ethics, and I stand before them again, presenting evidence of his financial ties to the breeder. "He sold my horse to fund Sophie's lies," I declare, my voice resonating. "He betrayed our bond and his pack." James, now stripped of his alpha title, pleads, "Emma, I was wrong. I see you now. Your strength, your heart. Give me a chance." I step closer. My words venom. "You saw me as a burden, James." The elders sentence him to probation, his pack in disarray. Margaret's screams echo, but I ignore her, turning to Gabriel. "This council you mentioned, how do we fight them?" He smirks. "With you leading, Emma, they don't stand a chance." I feel the eclipse stone pulse hinting at power within me and vow to unravel the council's secrets. As Mirage heals, I lead Gabriel's pack in a raid on the breeder's records, uncovering documents linking the Carters to the secret council. "This is bigger than us," I tell Gabriel, my voice firm. "They've been puppeteering packs for centuries." He nods, revealing he once served the council but defected to protect me. "You're destined for more, Emma," he says. "The eclipse stone chose you." I clutch the pendant, feeling its warmth, and reply, "Then let's use it to burn their empire down." James appears at the camp, desperate. "Emma, I've lost everything. I know the truth now. Sophie manipulated me. I love you." My laugh is bitter. "You loved your pride, James. I'm free of you." I ride Mirage in a ceremonial lap, the pack cheering, my heart closed to James's tears. Mia whispers, "You're a legend now, Emma." I nod, my eyes on the horizon, ready for the council's reckoning. The eclipse stone flares as I stand atop a hill, Mirage strong beneath me, my eyes on a horizon ripe for revolution. Gabriel warns of the council's reach, but I cut him off. I don't follow warnings, Gabriel. I make my own path. News of my victories, Sophie's banishment, James's fall, spreads, rallying wolfless shifters to my cause. James's final plea arrives via messenger. I know I failed you, Emma. I'll spend my life making amends. I tear the note, my voice resolute. Tell him I'm my own amends. In a raid on a council outpost, I uncover proof of their manipulation, the eclipse stone awakening a latent power within me, a spark of wolf spirit, hidden by the moon goddess until now. This is my fight, I declare to my pack, my voice ringing. The wolfen world will bow to my will.